Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, today sponsored by Audible. You can always start listening with a free 30-day Audible trial and get full access to thousands of all-you-can-listen audiobooks, original entertainment and podcasts included in the Plus catalogue. Just visit audible.com/jingles or text jingles to 500 500. And it's usually at this point in the proceedings where I make a suggestion as to what you can do with your free monthly audiobook credit, because it's worth pointing out that you do actually get a free audiobook credit every month, and even if you cancel your subscription, anything that you've purchased stays yours. This month I'm going to recommend the first Jack Reacher novel, Killing Floor by Lee Childs. And the reason I'm recommending it is because the Amazon original TV show Reacher, based on the book Jack Reacher The Killing Floor, just hit Amazon Prime Video. And I binge-watched the entire season last weekend, and it really put me in the mood for more Jack Reacher books. And if you're going to do it, you start with The Killing Floor, the first novel. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the Tom Cruise Jack Reacher movies, but Tom Cruise is nothing like the Jack Reacher in the books. So that's audible.com/jingles, or just text jingles on your phone to 500 500 and get yourself Lee Child's first Jack Reacher novel, The Killing Floor. Or don't, get whatever you like. I'm just making a recommendation here. It's not like you're ever going to run out of audiobooks to choose from. They've got thousands. Anyway, on with the show. This is Ristogod, and you probably recognise the ship he's sailing. It is a little bit flavour of the month lately. The new German Tier 10 battlecruiser, the Schlieffen. A very powerful ship. Good guns, long-range secondaries, low concealment, good speed, and torpedoes. The only real downside is the lack of heavy armour. Well, actually that's not all. She also doesn't have a lot of hit points at all, only 76,000. You look at other ships like the Grosser Kurfürst at the same tier that has over 100,000, and that in combination with the pretty weak armour scheme and the fact that she only gets 4 heals. It doesn't quite make the Schlieffen a glass cannon, but it does mean that you cannot afford to take any unnecessary damage. Thankfully, it does have very good concealment, so use that in combination with island cover to get close enough to put the main battery 420mm guns, which have cruiser dispersion, and the long-range secondaries to work. And if you're lucky, score a couple of torpedo hits. But the second you start getting focused in this thing, you need to disengage, because it cannot stand up to concentrated incoming fire. It just does not have the armour for it. I mean, she does actually have an icebreaker that's 60mm thick, but it doesn't cover the full extent of the bows, which otherwise only have 27mm of armour, which basically means that every single battleship this thing's going to face is going to be able to overmatch the bows. And the second those words escaped my lips, I can already picture you scrambling for your keyboards to type "actually Jingles." Yes, I know. Technically, there are a handful of battleships that the Schlieffen will face that cannot overmatch that 27mm of plating. We're talking anything with 15-inch guns or below, so Bismarck, Marlborough, Vanguard, a couple of others. But generally speaking, when you're fighting at Tier 10, most of the battleships are going to at least have 16-inch guns, and you cannot bow tank that. Of course, 16-inch gun-armed battleships farming you is only half of the problem, because when you have 27mm of deck plating, although the midship section does have 50mm of deck plating, but the entire forward deck from the front turret to the tip of the bow and the stern is only 27mm. Which means that even light cruisers with the IFHE skill, which normally is ineffective against Tier 8, 9 or 10 battleships because they have 32mm of plating, but even light cruisers are going to farm damage all over your deck and your 19mm superstructure. You really cannot afford to start getting focused down in this thing. Fortunately, it does have very good concealment, and it is insanely fast, with a base top speed of 34.1 knots, obviously more if you've equipped a speed flag. So I think it's fair to say that the Schlieffen is something of a conundrum, because it does reward getting in close, with the large volume of fire from the secondaries, which are very, very good, plus the torpedoes and the increased chance that you're going to hit something explosive with the 420mm main battery guns at medium to closer range, but it doesn't have the armour to stand up to any kind of focus fire from anything. Playing the Schlieffen is all about maintaining your health pool, certainly in the first half of the battle, because you don't have an awful lot of health to throw around. Remember, you only had a 76,000 hit point pool. It's a bit like playing a French auto-loading medium or heavy tank in World of Tanks. You have to try to maintain and preserve your hit point pool until the last half of the battle, when you can close in and put all of that insane firepower to good use without getting focused down and crossfired from all sides. Before you get too excited, I should probably qualify that last statement, because I keep going on about the Schlieffen's insane firepower, and it does have heavy firepower. But that firepower takes into account everything that the Schlieffen has: the main batteries, the secondaries, and the torpedoes. The main batteries alone, well, I don't want to say they're weak, because they're not, but they're weaker than you'd expect of a battleship armed with 420mm guns. The Schlieffen's maximum armour-piercing shell damage is only 12,950, which is not a lot by the standards of ships armed with 420mm guns. Also, the penetration isn't quite there, although it's certainly more than enough to deal with other battle cruisers giving you flat broadsides at ranges of 10 kilometres like the Prinz Ruprecht is over there. But the same volley, under the same circumstances, except against something that actually has decent belt armour, probably wouldn't have resulted in a citadel. Just to put that 12,950 armour-piercing alpha damage into further perspective for you, the Grosse Kurfürst, the Schlieffen's sister ship at tier 10, which can also be armed with 420mm guns, actually does slightly more than 13,000 damage per hit, which isn't a lot more than the Schlieffen's 12,950, but it's got more guns, and they do have much better penetration. Hell, if you want an even better example, look no further than the USS Montana, which doesn't even have 420mm guns. It's armed with 406mm rifles, but it's got more of them, 12 in total, 4 more than the Schlieffen, and they do more damage, with 13,500 AP damage maximum per shot. None of this means that the Schlieffen's guns are bad, by the way. I just don't want anybody getting their ship and having an unrealistic expectation of just exactly how good the guns are going to be. The 420mm shells may have slightly iffy penetration and below standard alpha damage, but that's made up for by the fact that they do only have a 27-second reload, and they have battlecruiser accuracy. It's not the main battery guns alone that make up the Schlieffen's reputation for strong firepower. It's the main battery guns, the torpedoes, and the secondaries combined. The main guns are absolutely murderous against enemy cruisers, of course, and the combination of rapid firing and accurate main guns, as well as all of those secondaries and the torpedoes, makes the Schlieffen an extremely dangerous target to approach in a destroyer, especially since it also gets that German long-range, long-duration hydro, which Ristogard is using at the moment, most likely due to the presence of an enemy Fletcher over in the general direction of the Montana and the Brandenburg over there. Not entirely sure what the Bismarck over there thinks he's going to achieve by sailing straight into that lot. If you look at the minimap down in the bottom right corner, you'll see all of the other friendly ships on this flank all kiting away from, well, all of that. That's what we call overwhelming enemy firepower. Pretty sure right now the Bismarck is trying to come up with a way that he can blame that on his team. good luck with that. Ristogard managed to mostly preserve his health pool. I mean, he has taken quite a bit of damage, but it was mostly from high explosive spam, and you can heal back almost all high explosive damage and all fire and flooding damage. Oh, and speaking of fire damage, the Bismarck managed to take the Montana down with him, most likely due to fires set by his secondaries. So that's a points neutral exchange, battleship for a battleship, and it's a tier 8 battleship for a tier 10 battleship, so the Bismarck didn't die entirely in vain, although he didn't have to die at all. He could have just kited away with the rest of the team, but whatever. Oh, here we go, perfect example of the nature of the Schlieffen's guns. 3 penetrations on the Brandenburg, and the Brandenburg only had 10,000 health. Any other tier 10 battleship would have sunk the Brandenburg with 3 penetrations. But then again, any other tier 10 battleship wouldn't have had battlecruiser accuracy and may not have scored 3 penetrations in the first place. So yeah, you kind of have to take the rough with the smooth where these guns are concerned. Meanwhile, the enemy Hindenburg basically just did the exact opposite of what the friendly Bismarck did, and pushed too far south while the rest of his teammates were hanging around those islands over there. You can again look at the bottom right corner of the minimap and see that the Charles Martel, Yoshino and Alsace have now turned around and are pushing north after finishing off the enemy Hindenburg, who pushed way too far south alone without the benefit of his teammates over there. And if you look at the various different health pools of his teammates, you can probably understand why they didn't. Doesn't explain why the Massachusetts over there is pulling a Bismarck too. I mean, I know the Massachusetts likes to get in close and use its secondaries, but there's a time and a place for everything, and that is definitely not the time, and it's certainly not the place. He's trying to turn around, and he is using a heel. Oh, he's managed to get the Charles Martel. That looks like he is pulling a Bismarck. He's managed to take one of them with him, and he's not actually dead yet. But the enemy team would be idiots to let him get out of there alive. Yeah, they've got him. While we're on the subject, speaking of ships that are sailing perilously close to the wind, the Z-44 over there does not have nearly enough health to be as brave as he currently is. Ristogod was signalling him in chat, "Chill, Winston," and the Z-44 replied, "Yep, you don't need to tell me twice." Remember, there is an enemy Fletcher over there. And while Ristogod's hydro is on cooldown, oh, I was about to say, having the Z-44's hydro available and ready to spot any Fletcher torpedoes would be very useful, but then I remembered it's a Z-44. And of course the thing that makes the Z-44 special as a premium destroyer is that it doesn't have hydro, so yeah. Damn. Oh well, never mind. His own hydro will be off cooldown in a couple of seconds, but pay attention to the Amagi over there on the left. That's the guy he needs to be watching out for, because he's yep, those were the Amagi's armour-piercing shells. He was lucky none of those hit, because he's angling against these guys. But the Amagi probably doesn't actually have anybody other than him to shoot at. Shots out on the Des Moines, who just received a big hit. And of course, when the Des Moines only has 8,000 health left, it's a Citadel. I believe the technical term for those is a pitadel, when the game gives you a citadel out of pity. Right. One radar down. Good news for the Z-44, although not great news because there is still a Riga over there on the left, and he of course also has radar. And with the enemy team now falling back to the north, that gives him the opportunity to angle his armour more against the Amagi, although it's not going to help him against high explosive spam from the Riga or the Fletcher in that smoke screen, which hopefully is going to suck on a couple of torpedoes as he puts shots out and kills the Prinz Ruprecht. But this is where he's vulnerable. I mean, he's got the hydro running, so he shouldn't be surprised by any Fletcher torpedoes. But look at the damage that he's taken when he suddenly starts getting focused. That's high explosive spam from the Fletcher in the smoke screen and the Riga. There's the Fletcher's torpedoes. They shouldn't be a problem. Semi-armour piercing from the Venezia and cross-map armour piercing from the Amagi. And his health pool just melted away there. He had a double fire. He was forced to use the damage control. And then a bit of a good news, bad news situation. The Z-44 did manage to sink the Fletcher with torpedoes and then discovered the Halland over there with his face. So the Z-44's down, but the Halland, who couldn't resist the opportunity to kill an extremely low health Z-44, wasn't really watching where he was going and face planted right into the island, and Ristogod was able to clean him up too, claiming the Kraken Unleashed and the Close Quarters Expert Award. He is still perilously low on health. He has 2 heals remaining, 35 seconds left on the cooldown, but he's not going to be able to recover a huge amount of health because of all of the armour piercing damage he was taking from the Amagi. Now he really needs to go undetected. Fortunately, he's very fast and he has good concealment. Oh. 16 seconds he'll be able to use his repair. He's managed to go undetected. Now the repair isn't going to recover a huge amount of health, because a lot of the damage that he took in the last 5 minutes was armour piercing from the Amagi over there. You can see him thinking about it. Because he didn't hit the repair as soon as it became available. He waited a couple of seconds. It's almost as if he was thinking, should I wait and see if I can take a bit more? Nah, screw that. Use it now. Honestly, I think that was probably the right decision. Okay. Points-wise, this is not actually the worst position the team have been in. Towards the beginning of the battle, they were down to less than 200 points at one stage. This is still far from good, however, with the enemy team 400 points ahead and in possession of 2 of the 3 cap circles. Now, the Yoshino is busy flipping Charlie, and he's probably going to manage to do it uncontested. And a quick look at the map, you might think, well, Ristogod can take the central cap and the Charles Martel can take the western cap over at Alpha. But the enemy Amagi is in the western cap over at Alpha, and I wouldn't be too confident if I was in a Charles Martel of being able to take an Amagi out, particularly when it has that much health. So he's not going to be able to do that alone and probably isn't even going to try. However, Ristogod is heading for Bravo in the middle of the map, and with the Yoshino about to successfully flip Charlie, and there it is, and with the rest of the surviving 3 enemy ships all either in the western or central portion of the map, the Yoshino is going to be heading in the direction of Bravo and can assist Ristogod in flipping the central cap. The problem is that there's less than 5 minutes of the battle remaining, and 2 out of the 3 caps is almost certainly not going to be enough for them to win on points. They're going to have to kill everything. They're going to want to take this central cap because it's going to give them some breathing space so the enemy team don't reach 1,000 points before the timer runs out. But points alone are probably not going to do it. A couple of high caliber, high explosive shells from the Charles Martel on the Amagi over there, and of course why wouldn't you? I mean, the Amagi is focusing down, or attempting to focus down, Ristogod, and of course he is. Ristogod was on less than 20,000 health there. So the Charles Martel's free to hit him with 8-inch high explosive. And of course, all of the secondaries are getting in on the action as well. And the Amagi, though technically a Tier 8 Japanese battleship, in reality was always more of a battle cruiser. It's a lot like the Schlieffen. It's got big guns and it's fast, but it was not blessed with an overabundance of armour, which means it's just melting away under the sustained barrage from these German secondaries. It's on fire, which means it's about to die, and there it is, kill number 6. Meanwhile, while the Venezia over there doesn't have to worry, at least for the next 30 seconds or so, about any torpedoes, secondaries or 420mm shells from Ristogod here, it does have to worry about cross-map 8-inch armour piercing sailing over from the Charles Martel, and the Yoshino over there, who's just taken over capture duty from Ristogod, and yep, there it is. Just waiting to spank the Venezia's broadside if he turned to angle against the Charles Martel's 8-inch armour piercing. One enemy ship left, the Riga, and I wonder, are those his torpedoes, or were they launched earlier from the Venezia? Difficult to say. Oh wait, no it isn't. Riga doesn't get torpedoes. I'm just used to thinking of Soviet cruisers, you know, like the Shores and the Dmitry Donskoy, having torpedo launchers. Not that it really matters. None of them hit anything anyway. Ah. A thought just occurred. The Yoshino is about to finish flipping that central cap, so the team now have 2 of the 3 capture circles, and it is 3 against 1. But, and it's a fairly big but, with the enemy team 300 points ahead, and less than 3 minutes on the clock, in fact less than 2.5 minutes on the clock, the Riga can still win this. All he has to do is run the timer down. It doesn't matter if they flip this cap, and they're going to want to do it to give them some breathing space in order to find and kill the Riga, but they must find and kill the Riga. Because even if they take this cap and they have all 3, 2 minutes is not enough time for them to convert a 250-point deficit into a points lead and a win in the time remaining. And you'll all be extremely disappointed to hear that the Riga is not going to try to win any harder than he needs to. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and that's to stay hidden and run the timer down. And he's doing his best to do exactly that. Which means that if they're going to catch him and kill him, these 3 guys are actually going to have to think about it. They have a fairly good idea of where he's going to be. There is only one island up there that he could be hiding behind, but, well, he's not necessarily going to be hiding behind the island. He could be in open water on the northern map border heading east. Did you see the Charles Martel firing his guns at nothing? He's doing that for a reason, to see whether or not he gets detected. But it's the Yoshino going wide who gets eyes on the Riga, who probably was hiding behind that island, and then at the last moment thought better of it. I need to get out of here. Fortunately, the Yoshino, who is the other hero of today's battle, saw that one coming, went wide, spotted him, and finished him off with a fatal delivery of 310mm armour piercing. So, congratulations to Ristogod in the Schlieffen, Lion Peng in the Yoshino, and Cordic in the Charles Martel. And it is nice, just for a change, to see a battle where the outcome is decided by two teams working as hard as they possibly can for the victory, rather than, as is so often the case, the battle being decided by whichever side manages to throw the most outrageously in the last couple of minutes of the battle, because it does happen occasionally, just, not quite as often as I'm sure we'd all prefer. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.